All our scriptures today are from the New International Version of the Bible. And it reads, "For as a person thinks within himself, so he is." Everything you have ever experienced began with a thought. What are you creating with yours? Think about it. Every invention ever designed began with a thought. Every song or poem or book began with a thought. Everything you've ever seen on television, and even the TV you watched it on, began with a thought. This sermon began with a thought. Everything in nature began as a thought of divine mind, infinite intelligence. Even you, as a person, began as a thought in your parents' minds. God creates. You create. We create together and individually. Following the law of cause and effect, those thoughts form ideas, and often those ideas manifest physically. It's a simple concept, but we create so much more. Our thoughts create fear. They create worry. They create doubt. And they create happiness, satisfaction, and a sense of comfort. Thoughts are powerful things. But God creates everything, right? Well, yeah, kind of. We often remind you that you are an expression of God. And since the beginning of time, almost everything that was not already set in motion by nature has been created by humans through the creative force of God within us. Okay, by now you're probably thinking, Mark, what on earth are you talking about? Well, let's take a journey through the Bible to explain it. The book of Genesis is a story meant to explain our origins to people who had never heard of science. In that story, a force that the writer refers to as God, and which uses the pronoun we, created the entire universe as we know it. Boom! 6 days and it was done. According to the story, the last thing to be formed was human life, created in, quote, the image of God. Of course, the way the Bible was written, many people who assume these to be literal stories have concluded that since we're humans, God must be in some form human too. How else could we be created, quote, in his image? I would argue that it's quite the opposite. God is the force of creation inherent in all things of the universe, and humans have that same force of creation expressing within us, an expression and image of God. And with that gift begins a long saga of humanity and our life, beginning with discovering free will, learning how to make use of that force of creation we're endowed with, and navigating the blessings and consequences of the things we've created along the way. The next book of the Bible, Exodus, chapter 3, verse 14, tells the tale of Moses having a conversation with God through a burning bush. When he asks who he should tell the Israelites spoke with him, the voice says, "I am that I am. Tell them that I am sent you." Grammatically, these words can be difficult for our brains to process. Think of I am as the most powerful words in our language, the words of creation, the name of God expressing through us. Whenever you use the words I am, you are beginning a sentence that's creating and manifesting an idea. I'm sorry. I am happy. I am so dumb. When you say these words, whatever follows I am follows you. This is what you are creating in your consciousness. This is your power of creation, and both your subconscious mind and the universe comply willingly. So what are you creating in your life? What words do you use after phrases like I am, or he is, or they are? What ideas is your subconscious mind accepting as truth, and thereby manifesting in your life? This is the power of I am. This power is so important that we made it one of the principles of our church. We call it the principle of I am. We believe in the creative force of the I am, and that our words and thoughts manifest in and through us. We create our happiness. We create our misery. We create everything we experience. It doesn't always seem like us creating it, but by believing and encouraging these things, even unintentionally, we're contributing to the creative process, even in the things we don't like. Here's some examples. First, did you ever think about calling in sick to school or work by pretending you were sick? You tell your parent or your manager, "Oh, I'm so sick today, I can't go in." These words, "I am," start kicking in almost immediately. And before you know it, you actually start feeling sick. In the process of trying to convince someone else that you aren't well, your mind starts convincing you too. Next, how many times have you ever worried about things in your life, playing out different scenarios in your mind? You get in arguments with people, you see your house burning down, or even worse. Even though they might not ever happen, the thoughts are very real in your mind, and your body responds to it like it's really happening. In some cases, you may even start remembering those things as if they really did happen. It's so powerful. We can trick our mind into holding on to very real memories of things that aren't real at all. Here's another example. How many times have you recalled a situation from years ago, and suddenly it's like it's happening all over again right now, with the same feelings and emotions? The thoughts and your body's responses are very real, even if the situation was otherwise forgotten by the rest of the world a long time ago. This is how our thoughts create. Mind activates principle, which produces results. That is the power of I am. And that's where our scripture comes in. As a person thinks within himself, so he is. We create our reality, the things that manifest in our life, and the myths that manifest in our minds, based on the way we think and what we do with it. Other than this one line of scripture, the Bible remains fairly silent about this idea of co-creation. I did find two examples, one about negative thoughts and one about positive thoughts. First, let's look at Mark chapter 7, verses 20 through 23, where Jesus is speaking to the Pharisees who are concerned because they're seeing the disciples eating without having washed their hands, and they think they're being defiled. He says, "What comes out of a person is what defiles them. For it is from within, out of a person's heart, that evil thoughts come: immorality, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, lewdness, envy, slander, arrogance, and folly. All these evils come from inside, and defile a person." Jesus is telling us that the negative things we experience don't come from the world around us or what we take in, but rather from our thoughts, which create ideas that express in our consciousness. The things that bring us down, war, crime, immorality, and hatred, come from within us, not just from our thoughts, but from how we choose to respond to those thoughts. We often allow our thoughts of fear, doubt, anger, worry, selfishness, and despair to manifest in our actions, which can become irrational and sometimes even violent, affecting the people and the world around us. We create those things, and we react to those things. And it's how we use our thoughts to respond to those things that determine whether they're encouraged or dissuaded. Now let's pause for a second, because I don't want you walking away from this lesson thinking you should never get angry or frustrated or doubtful or worried. These are natural human responses that serve a purpose, but we have a choice in what we create with them. We can use these thoughts to tear down our world, or we can use them to build our world up in better ways. That brings us to our next example in Scripture. In his epistle to the Philippians, chapter 4, verses 4 through 8, Paul reveals how to overcome the negativity in our consciousness to create a more rewarding experience in our life. He says, Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your gentleness be evident to all. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, with thanksgiving, turn to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, or admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Paul's message is simple. If we direct our thoughts and words and deeds toward uplifting, productive, and encouraging ideas, we will create an uplifting, productive, and encouraging experience for ourselves and those around us. If we direct our thoughts toward less productive things, we can easily experience the opposite, even with all other things being equal. Before we go on, I'd like to add one small note about the Philippians, the people that Paul was speaking to. The city of Philippi is named after Philip I of Macedon. Philip means lover of horses and metaphysically represents spiritual power and vigor in our consciousness. Power. Where did we hear that word before? Remember the power of I am? That is the most important power we express as humans, our expression of the divine within us. Paul is teaching about this power to the people of Philippi, a place of power and consciousness. It all fits perfectly. Now that we understand this idea of this power, let's think about it in modern terms. Over the century, there's been an abundance of war, interspersed with periods of relative peace. Remember, things like war, fighting, and anger are expressions and results of the creative power of our thoughts. As bad as they might seem, they can become the inspirations for using that exact same power to overcome negativity and to create peace. That is why holidays like Memorial Day are so important. They serve to remind us of the pain that we've created and endured through the thoughts, words, and deeds of humans like us, and to direct our thoughts and energies to more peaceful and loving ways. When we take time on Memorial Day to remember those who have lost their life in service, let's be thoughtful about the energy we put into that effort. Let's not focus on the uniforms or the types of uniforms, because it's not the uniforms that we honor. It is the consciousness of the people in those uniforms, expressed in ways that have overcome adversity in our world, and which help us to promote a more peaceful and safe environment for all of us. It's not just those who serve in the military. We can also honor anyone who has given their life in service to others. Law enforcement, medical professionals, hazmat crews, bomb squads, intelligence forces, teachers, especially teachers, and individual citizens whose consciousness has led them to help others, even at their own demise. The energy they have created through their thoughts, words, and deeds serves as an example for all of us. It's easy to be indifferent. It's easy to be apathetic. It's easy to let someone else do the heavy lifting. But when we think about their higher example, our thoughts make us stronger. We become more inspired. We become more confident in ourselves to do our part to uplift our fellow humanity. What are you creating with your thoughts? Are you creating a hell of fear and anxiety? Or are you creating a heaven of compassion and harmony? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want to inspire others to do through your example? It has become easy for us to idolize those who serve in uniforms, whatever the choice of career the uniform represents. When we remember to focus on the character of the person inside those uniforms, we can truly recognize the contributions that so many of them have made. And remember, we all wear a uniform, that garment of human flesh that reminds us that we are the light of God consciousness manifesting and expressing in this life. Wear your uniform with pride. Be an example for others to follow. Use your thoughts and words and actions wisely, carefully, and responsibly in a way befitting that uniform that you wear, that image of God, so that you are creating a reality deserving of honor. As you think within yourself, so you are. Namaste.